drink beer for breakfast. All I want to do is drink beer for breakfast.
KPAM News Time, 7:41. It's the first edition Beer Geek on the air every Thursday mornings here on News Talk 860 KPAM. And there was quite a craft beer adventure that happened in Portland last weekend from about 7 in the morning on Saturday until, well, just after midnight, early Sunday morning. It was an attempt to hit 77 breweries in the span of one day. And joining us here in studio, part of the team that did it, John Lovegrove and Thom Roholt. Guys, welcome to KPAM.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for having us in.
Thanks so much for coming in. Why? That's my first question.
Well, I wanted to do 80, and Brian Yeager, local writer, tried to talk me out of it. And when he decided that he couldn't talk me out of it, he said, I'm coming along and let's do 77 for a spirit of 77, the Blazers year. So we did that.
And just describe the logistical challenge that went into figuring out how you were going to do this.
Well, I'm a travel agent by trade, so planning complex itineraries is kind of my thing. So I was just making a list and using Google Maps and getting it together.
Don't let him fool you. He was fretting to the very last minute whether we were going to make 77 in one day. He kept on going back and forth saying, we're 50-50. We may make it, we may not. And there was a point at about 8 p.m., 8:30 where we had two breweries that we had to get to that were closing by 9. And there was a little bit of fretting there, but we got there. And actually, when we got to the one that was closing closest to 9, which was Coalition, we were welcomed by the brewer there, Phil, with just he almost derailed us by trying to keep us there longer because he wanted to celebrate that we had just gotten there.
Right, because you got to manage your time if there's 77 on your list and you've only got a limited amount of 12 hours or whatever.
I'm proud to say we never got more than 8 minutes behind or ahead the whole day. It was like right on all day.
So, I mean, there was drinking involved in this, right? I mean, how did you manage that?
We didn't set out to get drunk. I had a tiny little 1 ounce Stein that I bought in Austria a long time ago, and most pubs were happy to fill my little 1 ounce glass.
So over the course of the day, let's see, that's 77 breweries, 77 ounces. So, I mean, that's really what? You actually have a spreadsheet here that totals up. That's roughly 6.5 pints of beer?
Yeah, it was about 5.5, but I had a pint at the first one, number one, at 7 in the morning. Copper Moon at Edgefield, McMenamins.
Just to celebrate the start?
Right. And we got to number 50, and someone reminded me, hey, it's 50. So that was my previous record 3 years ago, was 50 in one day. So I had a pint at 50 and then another one at the end.
Yeah. So, I mean, you never felt out of sorts, I would imagine.
I never felt out of sorts at all. I don't think Brian did either. He had the half pints when I had the pints, but still, we're professionals.
You can handle it. Maybe it gets balanced out by the adrenaline or whatever. So this is all for a bigger project. And Thom, you're the filmmaker here. Why don't you talk a little bit about PDX Brew City?
Well, so John and I have done this 2 times before, and John had done it 1 time before that. The first time we did it was 34 brew pubs in one day. And then we did 50 breweries in one day, and I ended up not using the footage that I shot on the 50 because it was so much like the 34. So when John approached me, I basically told him, I'll do it, but we have to do a full-on documentary about the craft beer scene in Portland. And it was 2 weeks later when we started knocking on the doors of the Widmers and the McMenamins and talking to Art Lawrence and a bunch of other brewers. The folks from 13 Virtues were actually our first interview. I'm a journalist by trade from years ago, and what I wanted to do was tell the story. And what I really needed was to have the involvement of the beer community to do it. And they have been so welcoming and overwhelming response. Even when we did the 77 breweries, because we don't always contact everyone that we're going to. We just kind of show up and say, hey, we're here. And usually in previous times, there have been a few kind of hiccups like, well, maybe you should have called first, but it's better to ask for forgiveness than get permission beforehand. But since we're doing the documentary, we did it right this time. And we had just a wonderful time going through the whole thing, and it was amazing.
Yeah, and you had quite the crew, too, because not only did, John and Brian are the ones that get to sample, you got to be behind the camera pretty much the whole time, but you have to have a driver. You have to have somebody who fetches food. You have to, so how many folks in all were involved in this endeavor?
There was a core team of 6. There was the driver, myself, Thom, Brian. He had a second camera and a full-time sound guy that recorded everything.
And then for a big chunk, we had a still photographer for about northeast Portland to Vancouver.
Yeah, about 5 hours still photography.
How many miles you put on the car? Did you keep
I want to
track of
say
that?
301 miles.
Yeah, it's a little bit confusing because I drove the van back to my place before we went over there, and we didn't set the dial at the time, and I was up till about 1 or 2 in the morning setting the van up, and then slept for 2.5 hours, and then did the whole thing. And John did the whole thing in flip-flops, which was amazing because he woke up, went out to the garage to get something, and had the flip-flops on, forgot they were on, and got in the car. And so he did 77
on your feet.
Yeah. It was when we were already on the road, and we were like, I guess we're done. You're doing it in it.
Talking to John Lovegrove and Thom Roholt with PDX Brew City and the Spirit of 77 Breweries. When does the movie come out?
The plan is for March of next year. We'll be doing interviews probably through the end of the year, but hopefully a little bit sooner to give me some more time to edit it and do all the post-production stuff. But really, we're shooting for March, maybe St. Patrick's Day. John's got a Always Sunny in Philadelphia joke that I kind of keyed on from there, and so that's kind of the key there for me.
The line, I'm getting sick and tired of this pre-St. Patrick's Day mentality.
It's fantastic. Now, you guys actually have an Indiegogo campaign going to try to drum up a little bit of support for this project. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we got some stickers and T-shirts and pint glasses that we're trying to raise some money. It's not cheap making a film. A lot of gear rental and a lot of time, a lot of gas. But if you search PDX Brew City, or PDX Brew, you'll find it right away. You
can go to pdxbrewcity.com, and there is a link on the right side just underneath the video that we kind of compiled shortly together for that campaign.
Very cool. And this is a project, I mean, it's not just for people who live in Portland. This is something I would imagine you're trying to really get focus on elsewhere. I mean, you want to get wide release if you can.
Oh,
I feel
for sure.
like I'd love to take it out on the road to festivals or just to theater pubs around the country and just do screenings. That'd be fun.
Yeah, we've already heard of interest in Japan and of course New Zealand, since that's where John's from. But locally, the initial idea was to hopefully show it at local pubs and just have a general beer movie night together and get people to come enjoy the great beer of the Northwest. And we've had some good response from folks who we've been interviewing, saying, "Yeah, we can show it here. We'll figure that out when that time comes."
There's so many great stories. I wish you all the luck in the world boiling it down into 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Yeah, I already have almost 100 hours of footage from that weekend alone. I was running 3 GoPros and 2 cameras, so at 19 hours per camera, it's going to be a lot to get my arms around. But we'll get it done. We'll get it done right.
Very cool. We look forward to following your progress and seeing the final product. Thanks so much for taking the time to come in studio this morning.
Thanks for having us.
That is John Lovegrove and Thom Roholt with PDX Brew City. I'll put up all the links on my blog at kpam.com right after the end of the show. KPAM News Time, 7:50. This Day in Oregon History is coming up.